Hey everyone, and welcome to the Mic'd Avengers podcast, where we focus on martial arts and action cinema, but definitely delve into much more. My name is Jason from Martial Arts Theater 3000. I've been a lifelong fan of martial arts movies from Bruce Lee to the Venom Mob, Bruceploitation, and everything in between.
My name's Dragon, aka the Fanatical Dragon on YouTube. I also write the Blu-ray reviews for Eastern Heroes magazine right here in the UK. I'm about 4 decades into this love affair with East Asian cinema, specifically action cinema. Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan and the Shaw brothers got me into Hong Kong films, but unlike my buddy Jason, I've seen a whole bunch of Japanese, Indonesian and South Korean action flicks too. So over the coming episodes, every so often, we're going to force feed him something he has not seen.
And I'm Shaun, also known as Food for Thought. It all started for me at the tender age of 14, where I discovered Jackie Chan's Drunken Master. From there, I kind of delved into old school Kung Fu, and that has been my passion for 30 plus years now. I also started delving into all realms of Asian cinema, and I'm very happy to say that these days I have a pretty strong passion for kind of dark Korean thrillers. If you like what you hear and you're enjoying the podcast, please give us a like, share and subscribe. And please enjoy this episode of the Mic'd Avengers.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Mic'd Avengers podcast. I'm here with my two great friends and fellow Mic'd Avengers. We got Shaun, Food for Thought.
Hello all.
We got Johnny, the Fanatical Dragon.
Season's greetings.
And I'm really excited. This is our first Bruce Lee episode.
Mm-hmm.
It is our holiday episode, and we're discussing The Big Boss from 1971. And,
interesting choice. I think this will be an interesting discussion.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, Dragon, do you want to give us some of the synopsis if you have multiple over there?
I do indeed. We have two. Short and sweet from IMDb, which says a young Chinese man sworn an oath of non-violence moves to Thailand to work with his cousins in an ice factory, which he discovers to be a front for a sinister heroin smuggling operation.
Whoa.
Oh, that's
dude, that might be the best, like, even though it has spoilers, it's really covering it nice for once.
It's pretty good, but surprisingly, Google, which normally sucks, actually does not too bad here. Compelled by a promise, Chen gives up fighting and works at an ice factory. Not strictly accurate, but when his family members mysteriously begin to disappear, he's forced to break his vow in order to solve the mystery.
Oh, cool. We didn't get a guy named Bruce arrives in Thailand.
No, not this time round.
No martial arts mentioned. It makes it sound like a detective thriller.
It kind of, spoiler, it kind of is.
Do you know what? You're not wrong there.
Yeah, I guess we should just jump into, like, maybe I'll go first with, my history of it and how I got into Big Boss and how I found it this time. We'll make the rounds. So growing up, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Bruce Lee were like my heroes. I was 6 years old and these were the guys I just adored and was like, oh my God, it just blew my mind. And they could do no wrong. When you're like that age, I mean, you don't even think if they could do wrong. It's just no question about it. And Bruce I think 36 Chamber of Shaolin, it's hard to remember the exact first Kung Fu movie. I remember like seeing that on television as the first moment. I don't know and I remember rewatching the whole thing, but right around that time was when I saw Big Boss and I rented it, and it just, the grittiness of it, I loved it. I loved it to death. Over the years, it kind of, I think this has happened to a lot of people. It fell down on the list for me over the years, but whenever I would revisit it, it would go back up. And what it does for me in Bruce's like catalog is Fist of Fury is kind of like a greatest hits. That's like a blow your mind, like a band reference, which I like to do is like Led Zeppelin 4 with Stairway to Heaven. That's like Fist of Fury. But if you talk to Led Zeppelin, certain people, they'll say Physical Graffiti is their favorite. Cause I think sometimes people want to, not that a greatest hits can never be bad, but it's just to see other elements and let it breathe a little bit, go down different pathways. This is kind of Bruce's movie that breathes a bit. And so, I mean, we'll probably get to it, maybe breathes too much at times, especially on this Mandarin cut, which I want to bring up. Wow. But I just like this. And it's kind of like, it really is so important too. And this is something I watched later on and I learned more, is that I think it's important to pin in or get to here is that how Bruce, he didn't like, Jimmy Wang Yu. And at the same time, Jimmy Wang Yu was leading this, like, I guess we call it charge or change where everything was swords, Shaw Brothers, all that late 60s, even the early 70s, no one dropped the sword. And, with Chinese Boxer and Jimmy Wang Yu, he just broke the mold. And and Bruce was like, gritting his teeth. He didn't like how Jimmy Wang Yu looked, his like martial arts. He just was like, oh, I can do better than this guy. And, they really, especially with Fist of Fury, they really, and a lot of Kung Fu movies always do that. They kind of just parrot a bit what is the most popular thing. He really went down that path to going into the dojo. And I do think Bruce did it better because of his martial arts prowess and stuff. But I think on this one, he's so green. The mixture of them changing the director, that swap. And they initially, and some people listening, I'm not sure if they would know this, but James Tien was supposed to be the, original lead. And then that got switched pretty early on. And I think that
Thank God.
Okay. But because it's almost like two eras. Like when you watch 10 Tigers of Kwantung, how they filmed that over so many years, you can really glaringly see when it's the Venoms or when it's, the earlier stuff, or the later period, or even Heaven and Hell, those Chang Che ones. It kind of just show it's like a basher movie that would be pretty forgettable if it had been that James Tien thing. And you could see them be like, let's get this Bruce to the front, and it morphs. But it's just how late it is in the game, especially in the later watches, that throws this so much. I mean, on the Mandarin cut, it's like 55 minutes before the first scene. I thought Five Deadly Venoms was ridiculous at 45 minutes in. I think that's like 55. That is like, whoa, So I don't know if this is like some coping a bit from when I rewatch it, and I have a little bit of issue of how long it takes to get there. But what it reminds me of is like Deer Hunter. What's the other one I wrote down here? It reminds me of, let me see the other one I wrote. Yeah. Like Jaws, how it's almost like a 70s drama. Well, not much is going on. I wouldn't call it quite a hangout film, but it's just kind of like, when you're watching Deer Hunter, like, I don't know if you've seen it in a while, like half hour in, you're like, what am I watching? There's some wedding he's talking.
I would agree with you for Deer Hunter. Jaws, no, because like Jaws does a spectacular, a much better job of building up tension up until when you do finally see the sharks. Is the point when you could almost get away with not even, it wouldn't really matter if you never actually saw the shark finally come
That's
out
a good point.
Because they've done, and a lot of that wasn't by design, but this isn't, we'll say that for Jaws cast. But, Deer Hunter, yes, Jaws, this is no Jaws. Can I ask a quick question? Jason, was this your first Bruce Lee? Did you see this before seeing his other movies? Interesting. Okay.
I did. I think I saw this, and then I saw, I might even say Way of the Dragon later. I remember Enter the Dragon, and then Fist of Fury was a tad later. Yeah, so this was my first one seeing it. Some positives on it, I will say, is that what sticks out is how long it takes to get to that first Bruce Lee explosion, but the highs on this still stick out so much to me. That first thing where Bruce goes, it's like watching like a almost bad dance movie, and then Fred Astaire shows up, and as I'm and as I'm older, it's like a little understated. It falls into what we've talked about. Like if you showed a 15-year-old Night of the Living Dead, you're like, oh, wait for this, and then it's just some like weird liquids coming, It's kind of like this is only 2 years later after that. You kind of have to add that grain of salt and realize it has to be held against the time, you know what I mean? You can't watch The Raid and then be like, here's our next double header, or go, So that being said, the highs of it has some of my favorite highs in Kung Fu movies. That punch where he punches the sun at that moment, the famous,
one of the best punches of all time. It's incredible.
I got goosebumps to even think it. That is like possibly my favorite moment in Kung Fu cinema. It's just kind of like, and that's also the difference between the English or, the English dub, that soundtrack. I adore the soundtrack. That's another thing I have to say. The funk. I just love that funky American sound. I don't know if it's American. I don't know where they made it, maybe in England, but the English dub version, that soundtrack blows my mind. I just love, it gives it this kind of grindhousey funk to it. I adore that. And that, it also has like this Eye of the Tiger moment where it goes, dent. It doesn't quite do Eye of the Tiger, but it has like kind of a riff like that. So when he punches him, it goes back to that. I adore that. When I watch the Mandarin, it's like a different vibe. It reminds me almost of when we watched The Raid, when I watched the, I guess, original soundtrack. It's kind of like when you're used to something, it's hard. It kind of throws the scenes that you saw like in the other, So I adore the soundtrack. It has some of my favorite Kung Fu moments. I think it's just Bruce saves this whole thing. It's a showcase for him. and it's unbelievable. I mean, it just made its mark. It's so groundbreaking that the way he moves on screen, only he did that for a few years. Other people start getting that later on, but it seems like not for a while. It still had the Shaw brothers. It's just that on screen
intensity.
Oh, like the way he moves and stuff. Even if you go watch like Heroes 2, which I think is a year after this, I love that movie. But the Shaws were still in this certain rhythm, still everything was still in that rhythm. This is like 6 years in the future, for the on-screen fighting. So I love all that. It's just kind of like a blending of two different movies. It's kind of like a basher that wouldn't have been that great with James Chen, and Bruce Lee, they shoehorn him in, and it saves the day. It's amazing, but it's kind of like I'm feeling two things at once when I watch it now. For a long time, this was my favorite one. And I think it was my favorite. Yeah, I think it was my favorite because the only way I can explain it is the other ones are so good. They're the greatest hits that, when you want to get into a band more, you want to sink into their other albums and the album tracks. This is like Bruce's album tracks. And we don't have much screen time with Bruce. So I just love just taking it all in, watching him. He's kind of odd in it. He's kind of like moody and just kind of like doesn't want to be anywhere and just kind of pouting the whole movie. And the Mandarin cut kind of makes up for that a little bit. He laughs a little more. They show some scenes, they chopped it all out, but so that's my take. Used to be my favorite. I don't know. The rewatches lately, it might be dropping a bit. Maybe we've decided we're going to do Bruce's other movies. Like, we'll stagger them. So maybe I'll say what my favorite is. I'll probably say it later on, but yeah, I adore this movie. It's not one that you'd put on Fist of Fury and you'd blow someone's mind with it. This one is more for, I think, diehards and people who want to just see more Bruce and can understand the importance and how this fits into the trajectory of Kung Fu cinema. But you need a little bit of a disclaimer that, like when you watch Night of the Living Dead, that's so mind blowing. Texas Chainsaw still has that oomph to it, but there's something about the early 70s sometimes. We're talking like next year, 55 years ago, this is like almost 10 years older than me. My entire life I've been alive. So it's so long ago that I think it's par for the course. It's just going to feel weird putting that on now, just meaning like anything you put on from that period, in my mind, I think it's also the nature of like society too. When these Deer Hunter were mentioning things, they let things breathe. Now everything is that chopped Quantum of Solace. Like I bring that up a lot because that's such an edited, it's almost just like a music video. Each scene only gets like a minute. That's my little theory on it. I just think I do agree that there are movies in that period, even Shang-Chi ones, that are more solid as a film, like when you talk about Delightful Forest, heroic ones, that whole period. But I think it's Bruce Lee's fighting that just shoots this to the stratosphere, and the fact that he died. That's kind of my take on it. But yeah, I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say. Let's I'll flip a coin. Let's go with Shaun. Let's go with Shaun next.
So I don't even remember when I first saw this film, I admit. It was definitely not my first Bruce Lee. To be honest, it was probably one of the later Bruce Lee's. I mean, later on I saw this one compared to the others. So I think I saw Enter the Dragon first, Fist of Fury, then Way of the Dragon, and then maybe Big Boss came in.
I think I'm exactly the same, dude.
Yeah. So watching it as a child, I did, or as a teenager, I should say, I didn't like it. I didn't care for the Big Boss. That's because Enter the Dragon was kind of the ultimate kind of iconic Bruce Lee film, because Bruce Lee was inherently the Bruce Lee icon version of him in Enter the Dragon. They kind of nailed everything. And so I fell in love with that film very early. So when I came to the Big Boss, it was a step back, because I was like, oh no, this is not nearly as good as his other stuff. So now, many, many years later, when I watch it, in my opinion, and I don't mean this in a like a really scathing way, it's Bruce's weakest, I think. It's his poorest film, and that's not Bruce's fault. The fault is of the filmmakers, and they don't know how to use Bruce in this film, I feel,
because Bruce wasn't Bruce yet.
Right, that's it. He's obviously always had a star quality to it. He's got this charisma, but I don't think Lo Wei knew how to capture that on screen properly. it feels like this film is a little half-cocked.
Mm-hmm.
Like there could be more it gives, and it pulls back a little, or not even. It doesn't purposely pull back. It just it doesn't know how to use Bruce, and it doesn't know how to get the most out of his charisma. Now, don't get me wrong. When the fight scenes roll around, they're cool and everything, and you know his typical energy is there on screen, and it's a delight to see. But for me, the film's a slog. I don't really care for the dramatic elements of it. I do like the thriller aspect. I do like the whole ice factory and the bodies and the ice and things like that. And I do like that the family members and friends are going kind of missing. And I kind of like that Scooby-Doo-ish element to it. But the actual film, I feel, drags quite heavily. James Tien, put him straight in the bin. Like he is.
I'm getting the Carter Wong. Is he in the Carter Wong bin for you?
He is. I think he's lower than Carter Wong in my rankings.
When you go in Carter Wong's bin, you open the bottom and James Tien's.
Exactly. When you see him first fight in this film, he looks like a 12-year-old just flailing his limbs. It's awful. And then when Bruce kind of comes in, it's like it's apples and oranges. It's completely different. And I think there are things in this film that can be mined for good. I think if you dig deep, you can pull out certain gems of this film. For example, I think there are certain scenes, like we mentioned, the famous punch. I think that's just so wonderfully framed and so wonderfully acted by Bruce. It's just a perfect, iconic clip. And I also like the scene with the prostitute, believe it or not. I actually like that scene because we get to see a little more of Bruce and kind of a different aspect of him. And even though it was his kind of first film, we saw it early, but now it's kind of flipped because we're used to kind of this clean cut-ish version of Bruce Lee. And then, of course, this version has him sleeping with a prostitute, scandal. And I kind of like that. I kind of like that was early on featured in a film. And then later on, they kind of took Bruce's sexuality away. Even if, outside of film, he was quite the swordsman, if rumor is to be believed. So
I'm trying to think, would you, not to interject, would you qualify this? Like, he was literally sleeping with a prostitute, but I don't even think, he was like that Hennessy. I don't know how much he chose to go, I don't know much he chose to go into that room by that point. The whole thing's blurring.
I think you're right. I love the fact it's Hennessy. But I think it's very. Yes, I think you're right. He's obviously drunk and he's kind of passed out, but even seeing the woman just disrobe in the same room as Bruce, I don't know. It adds, and I'm not saying that as like a titulating reason. I don't find it titillating per se. I just think it's a good thing to broaden the horizon of Bruce.
It gives it an edge. It's not like a Disney-fied end at all.
Yeah, give him a bit of sexuality, give him a bit of risqueness and things like that. And I don't know. I appreciate certain scenes in this film, but I think a lot of it just doesn't work for me. For example, I think the climax, as it builds up, I don't think it's much of a climax, in my opinion. I think it kind of fizzles out a little bit. And all in all, I find the experience of watching it mostly very mediocre. I kind of leave The Big Boss going, all right, cool. I got to see some Bruce and it was cool. But overall, it is certainly, in my opinion, the weakest. I was speaking to someone online and they couldn't believe that I picked Game of Death over this one. And I do.
Especially if we're talking about just seeing what he had intended.
Exactly.
So if you just look at the Arrow's done the best job so far of kind of reassembling everything. But if you just watch those rushes together and kind of see how he would have liked that movie to unfold, that's light years ahead of anything.
It would have been his best.
Yeah,
it definitely would have been.
I think
his
so.
Best.
One thing to throw in there is, I think the obvious thing. I don't think Fist of Fury has it too much, even though he had Longstreet and he had even in the Green Hornet, his philosophy, it was full going at that point. It's not really in Big Boss and Fist of Fury. It's only Way of the Dragon and then Enter the Dragon. It got clipped out. They cut out the scene with him and the Shaolin monk and all that. But it's still in there with the Finger to the Moon and Game of Death. The whole movie was going to be based on that. Silent Flute. Right. It's all so. That's what's nice to see on those later ones. Even if Way of the Dragon has those fun, weird, clunky moments too, There's more of the philosophy coming in. Maybe let me think about that. Am I wrong on that? Because he is in the country bumpkin mode in Way of the Dragon. Now,
a little bit, but he's still significantly cooler. And
it captures his charisma more. Way of the Dragon. He's far more animated, far more of a character.
Because I think we'll get to it later on, but I think a lot of that's because he had so much more control. Like he wrote it and he directed it, so I think he was
and produced it. Everything that's just bam, bam, bam.
Totally, and I don't want to clip on you, Shaun.
Shaun, go ahead. Sorry,
I'll just wrap this up neatly. It's just it's a fine watch. It's watchable. Is it a film I revisit often? No. And is it a film I plan to revisit often after watching it this time? Not really. I can't see myself going back to The Big Boss anytime soon. And that's kind of a shame because I genuinely think I can go back to any Bruce Lee film most of the time. But Big Boss, ultimately, my opinion is it just doesn't do it for me. It just doesn't scratch that itch that I'm looking for.
What's your Letterboxd? I know you do Letterboxd ratings. What would you give that?
That's a damn good question. Let me see if I've even rated it on Letterboxd.
What is Letterboxd about? Is 4 or 5? Is the highest? 5. Okay.
5. So I didn't rate it this time around because I don't like revealing what films we're doing before we do them. I don't rate them early. But originally I gave it 3.5 stars.
Okay.
So this must have been the last time I watched it, which was years ago. I would knock that down closer to 2.5 now.
Whoa, okay. Okay.
I'm not a big fan. Sorry. Anyway, Dragon, give us your opinion.
I'm very much in the same wheelhouse as you. I think both in terms of when I first came to it. I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 in terms of the running order of me seeing his movies. I know for a fact that Enter the Dragon was definitely the first. And I'm very confident that Fist of Fury was second. I cannot remember if Way of the Dragon or this came third or fourth. I just can't remember. I also can't remember because it would have been TV. I think I saw them screening on probably on BBC late one night. Was probably my first time to see it, and I cannot remember if they screened the English dub or subtitled. I kind of feel they probably would have done it dubbed, right?
Yeah,
back in the day,
I think.
And I'd forgotten just how bad the English dub on this was. So I rewatched it this time because I wanted to give it a chance. And I think we always come into these with a slightly different perspective. I kind of find I put on my podcast hat when I'm viewing stuff. And as with Shaun, it's always been one that I thought was his weakest, and it's always been one that I've found inherently frustrating because there's so many elements of the character they've asked him to play that don't feel right for him. And I think they do definitely put more stock into setting up James Tien's character as being the more kind of like stereotypical hero. He does the more heroic shit. He's the one looking out for other people and seems fundamentally good. Bruce kind of seems like a dick quite a lot, even after the time when you'd hope that he would be on the mission to try and investigate and get to the bottom of what's going on. He's so easily waylaid, and he gets drunk. But even after that point, when he's promoted, he's just like, hey, celebration. And he's like frog marching everyone back home. And it's the girl who's got to remind him, like, what the fuck about your brother? He's like still missing. And he's like, oh yeah. And he just comes across as not that endearing. And you can tell his frustration in those elements. Or I may be projecting, but I'm frustrated by those elements, and I kind of get the sense that he's probably frustrated by those elements because he changed them all when he had control. There was not the sort of territory that he pushed his characters. I think he had a very good understanding of the hero's path and the hero's journey and how best to reflect that. So I feel like I'm the Jade Netless watching this movie. Like I feel like I constantly kind of want him to explode, and when he finally does, it's fucking awesome, but it comes too late, and it's not enough to elevate the movie up to a place where it's one that I rate as being. It's kind of like seeing. It's not even like a band's first album. To jump back to your music analogy, this is like finding the lost demo tapes.
Yes, that
they recorded on a 4-track, and one of the mics wasn't working properly. One of the guys didn't show up that day,
and they fix it halfway through a little.
So it's just like the pieces are almost there, and you can see his charisma every second that he's on screen, but his wings are being clipped constantly for like the first 50 minutes of the movie, which is so frustrating because we know what he's capable of. So again, and like Shaun said, it is like stepping backwards, and even now it's like stepping backwards. And I've got a lot of respect for people who absolutely love this movie. Like Brandon Bentley, this is his favorite movie, not just his favorite Bruce Lee movie. This is flat his favorite movie of all movies, right?
Good for him.
But
I'd love to speak to him. I'd love to hear.
And he'll make a good case for it, right? Because I think he loves the mythology of all the missing footage and the lore of it, and seeing basically what could have been, down to the point where there's that great special feature on the Arrow disc called like I can't remember exactly the name of it. It's like the biggest boss or whatever, but he kind of goes through all the lost footage, and he's kind of getting it down to analyzing the sound. So you could, like in the scene with when the girl comes to wake them up in the morning to send them off to work, he's analyzing and isolating the soundtrack to be like, you can hear footsteps, and then look at this picture from this lobby card, and there was definitely another scene that should have gone in there. And it's like, yeah, man, I love that you're that excited for it, but that wouldn't have helped it, wouldn't have saved it. Because for me, it's just an inherently frustrating experience watching it, because it's not he's just not given enough of a chance to shine. And I think at the time that I first saw it, it was definitely before I'd seen any Shaw Brothers stuff. So I didn't see the Chinese Boxer until the years after. And the fact the Chinese Boxer was a year before this makes this even worse by comparison. Because the Chinese Boxer is legitimately so much better as a martial arts movie. It's more inventive in terms of its story. And yeah, Jimmy Wang Yu was sloppy as a fighter, but goddamn, he could direct and he could plot and he could work out the structure of how to actually kind of narratively make a film gripping and compelling. So the Chinese Boxer is really good as an actual. Even if you take the kind of the slightly lackluster choreography or the Wang Yu-esque choreography out of the Chinese Boxer, it still is just run circles around this movie on every other metric. And I would argue that I don't think Bruce had the control to respond to what Jimmy Wang Yu had done until Way of the Dragon. Way of the Dragon feels more like a response, and then getting it right is Fist of Fury. Like Fist of Fury, can't remember which came first. Did Fist of Fury come before?
Fist of Fury came before.
And then Fist of Fury was him clearly exerting a lot more control over Lo Wei, because Fist of Fury is still, I think, depending on which day you would ask me, either Enter the Dragon or Fist of Fury would be the ones that I would put at the top for his completed projects. I think Game of Death has the most potential, but yeah, this one's a real weird one to go back.
So where would this land for Way of the Dragon? This would be the lowest of all of them for you?
The Big Boss? Oh God, yeah. The Big Boss is way below Way of the Dragon.
Okay.
Because it's barely a Bruce movie. Like, it's a movie that has Bruce in it. It's kind of like a cameo more than it is a kind of central performance. And I know what you mean.
There's
a lot of bits, like I might sound like I'm kicking it too much. There's a lot of stuff in the movie that I do dig, and I maybe don't struggle to get through it as much as Shaun did, because I can get into the whole detective story of it, but then I get really frustrated because he's so shit at following up, actually investigating the thing that he's meant to be investigating, and he gets derailed too easily. And I kind of when it gets it right, like when he goes to investigate the inside of the ice factory at night, and it's kind of cast in red light. That's cool as fuck. That's great. That's kind of some of the most effective cinematography, and all the fights that he was clearly in control of, which is mostly all the ones in and around the ice factory. I actually think the end fight doesn't do as well as that big fight in the ice factory. That's the scene for the whole movie, right?
Oh yeah,
that's the one that kind of really works the best.
And how if any of us, I have to ask regarding the ice factory scene, have any of us, and I'm sure the answer is no, seen the saw in the head scene?
No, and we never will.
No, I think
it only aired. I guess it only aired once, and I know there's kind of a Mandela effect. I guess that would be the word, right? Because people see that picture, but I guess it only aired once. Like
did it even air once?
Well, I think Brandon Bentley, because he's like, the authority on this film for sure. I think he did say it aired like once because they would do a test in Hong Kong on the Mandarin market. It was almost sometimes a test screening, kind of like you would do a test screening now that for a test audience, but they would do that for the real audience and then like cut out stuff. And I know there's comments where people said that picture looks brutal, but it looked like bad on film and looked fake. It looked like cheesy.
He says you can hear it. It's in one of the soundtrack. You can hear the strike.
Yeah, it's like a ripping sound, isn't it?
Yeah,
of some sort.
Yeah, at the end of kind of like one of the shots, and he's identified the stuntman. That special feature he's done is great. I enjoy the special features of this movie way more than the movie.
I've heard you say that about a lot of stuff. I'm thinking, what is it? You a lot of times, sometimes the documentary you enjoy more than the film.
With Apocalypse Now and Heart of Darkness. I love but that's the filmmaker, the frustrated filmmaker in me that kind of like responds more to that sort of stuff. So it's not necessarily always an indication of the quality of the thing that I'm not enjoying as much. I just really get a kick out of seeing how the sausage is made sometimes.
Yeah, documentaries overall might be like my favorite type of sitting down to watch something film. Because they're not quite films. I kind of like compartmentalize them separate than, you know what I mean? Like I compare documentaries to documentaries. I could, because I love The Warrior's Journey, Bruce's documentary about when they found all that Game of Death footage. And I mean, that just blows my mind. But I guess it's hard for me to compare it to a film. But I know what you mean, though, when it comes to pure entertainment and how you're feeling,
I think that there's a big problem with Bruce in general in that Bruce Lee, the man, was infinitely more interesting than almost all of his movies.
Absolutely.
So he, as an actual human being, was far more interesting and far more fascinating. He was a great actor in the sense that he was a very like undeniable presence on screen, and usually the less he was doing, the more compelling he was. And I think he learned that later on. So he did not know that here. He's almost gurning at certain points through a couple of shots, and it doesn't quite sit that right. Like once he started doing the Steve McQueen thing, I've been like, okay, less dialogue, less movement, be super still. Like only every single movement has to have intention. So by the time that he got to that point, he's unreal, because then
But you're talking about, in my opinion, if just without even thinking about it, I would say this is the least dialogue and the least movement on him in a movie. But you mean once he's like, well, think about it, because for the 55 minutes, he's just standing in the background with the jade necklace.
That's true. But then he's got to act drunk, and he's got to kind of act. He's got to kind of do his scene with the prostitute, and he's kind of got to do his little scenes of semi-flirting with the girl. And there's some little acting beats that we don't normally kind of see him do, because by the time that you get to Enter the Dragon, he just dismisses everybody, like at all points, right? Whether he's fighting someone or whether he's being offered a room full of prostitutes, everyone's just dismissed. Interested, right?
Oh,
he's too cool for school across the board.
Stone-faced.
And there's a thing that I call the machinist effect, and this will require a bit of explanation. There's a movie called The Machinist that Brad Anderson made with Christian Bale in it, and it's not that good a movie, but Christian Bale in that movie is phenomenal. Like he physically transformed himself into basically a walking skeleton in a way that's like super freaky to watch. Like
unhealthy.
You can't quite believe, like, so unhealthy. You can't. He genuinely looks like he's an animated corpse in most of that movie, and his performance in that film is unreal. Like, he should have been nominated for awards, but never did. But the movie can't hold the weight of it. So the movie itself almost suffers by how good he is in that movie, because nothing else around it can
no, that's how I feel too. I mean, I just want to add on to that. That's how I see this. I see, if you had a bunch of movies, imagine this movie was without Bruce Lee. If it was just a James 10. It would just, it would just.
I don't mind James 10. I don't have like Shaun's.
I love Shaun's takes. We're gonna have to dice. We're gonna have to have you elaborate or expound on that later. But
he's just shit.
I like him as a villain. I feel he's a much more natural villain. He's not a good hero. Like there's the other one when he's semi-heroic and he's kind of heroic a little bit in the Shaolin plot.
Yeah.
But he can't. There he gets trumped by like Sammo, just doing crazy Sammo shit through the Shaolin plot. So you can't compete with it. But I don't mind him as a villain. Like I think of him more as like a Lucky Stars era.
He gets better when it gets to with him and Cynthia Rothrock, and he gets better in that period.
I stand corrected.
In the 80s.
Yeah, he's good when he's not having to do martial arts. When he's just basically there, is like the sending off. Like I want him dispatching Dick Wei and Chong Fat off to like fuck people up. That's when I'm happiest with James Tian, right?
Yes. I do like him as a villain in Spiritual Kung Fu, the Jackie Chan
I hate
film.
that movie so much.
That's right. I think everyone should hate that movie. It's ridiculous, but I love it. But
you know what? That's important. I think that's important for us to get to that too, because that really absolutely is important to discuss. Lo Wei and how he handled these actors, that period, that 70s. But before, I just wanted to say Dragon's great analogy there, that I feel that way. My favorite actor of all time is Daniel Day-Lewis. And I feel like he can sometimes do that to movies. Like, Gangs of New York, that has a good replay value, but I think his role in that just trumps.
Oh yeah, he's on another plane of everything he's doing is miles ahead of everyone else.
So it kind of like, and Leonardo got much better, I feel, away from, that 97 to 2001, that period, he's like finding his footing. He does like The Beach and stuff. He's not quite, he became much better later on. But the thing is that Daniel Day-Lewis is so amazing in that when I watch that now, he's just so great, the character, everything, that everything else kind of pales in comparison. So that is, and I haven't seen The Machinist, so I've seen the picture and I know what you're saying there, that famous like shot. But so if we look at James Tien led Big Boss, which we said would have been forgettable, that kind of just fits into those like Chinese Hercules. I love Bolo Young, but that period there where these movies are just, kind of like average and not that great and a lot of just talking and all these things. Bruce is like a bomb going off, It's kind of like going to see a 2-hour film and the sprinkler goes on for 25 minutes. You can't forget it. It's like, it's kind of like, I know that it's just, he transcends it so much that's what carries. That's what if I watched this like in a film class, we really had to dissect it. I think that's what we do when we watch it for the podcast. You get your critical mind on, that's where this starts to falter and everything and how you feel. It is slow, but as a historical piece in how amazing Bruce is in the exploding moments, it just raises it so high for me, and that's kind of like how I feel in it. But I'll tell you that Mandarin guy, first off, Shaun, you probably don't even know this. I don't know whose idea this was. One of the worst decisions ever in a movie is one of the coolest things is Bruce Lee. He's sitting at, that stream and he's thinking that, oh, everyone died. And it feels, and it kind of has that horror feeling. Like I actually got a horror movie feeling when he's like laying on the Big Boss and is like exhausted. It reminded me when everyone's dead, that feeling kind of like Texas Chainsaw and she's out on the road. I was like, wow, I got kind of like a horror throwback. But he's sitting there thinking, oh, everyone's dead. And he's like, I will revenge you. And in the English version goes right to him going, I think then to the red light, that whole amazing. But in the Mandarin, I have no idea why. He goes back to the brothel, goes up. And by the way, as you guys know, those are real prostitutes. And the only one who's not a prostitute is the one with the darts and the actress. But Bruce goes up and just pays a prostitute and they have sex like straight up. I don't know if you know that, Shaun. No, they just straight up has sex with this prostitute. It is the worst.
Wow.
It makes no sense. Like his character is a little confusing in this. Like he's kind of like I wouldn't say anti-hero, but he's not like the most likable guy. And that makes it interesting to me.
I think he's meant to be a kind of bit of a bumpkin. He's meant to be like
fish out of water.
Almost village idiot.
Like a yokel,
to come from the mainland. And there was a little bit of a thing that you would see sometimes in Hong Kong, especially. The Shaw Brothers played with it a little bit. The best version of it I've ever seen, or the most respectful version, is in Martial Club with how Lau Gar-lung portrays Johnny Wang Lung Wei in that movie. Because he's a fish out of water who's not meant to be, he's not stupid, but he doesn't really understand the dynamics of the situation he's come into. Yeah. And so he's really easy to be manipulated. So he's not really the villain in that movie, although he's compelled to end up fighting against Gordon Liu in that incredible sequence going up the ever-decreasing alleyway, right?
Oh,
but
man.
He's not really... It's one of the few times when Wang Lung-wei is not really playing a straight-up, cackling, mustache-twirling villain. Yeah. He's actually a pretty good, upright, noble guy, right? And he's not an idiot, but he's kind of come from the north. He's come from basically... from far away. So I think in The Big Boss, it does fall a bit more into that. He's kind of meant to be a bit of a bumpkin, like, because he's
right.
But it's so weird that they're doing that they're all removed from where they would have normally been. Like we're not in Hong Kong, we're in Thailand. And so like, I think
that's an important point. That I think that's what's bleeding in, because all the letters that Bruce Lee was writing to Linda, all those letters, he got food poisoning there. He lost 10 pounds. He was coming from the Hollywood scene, seeing all these cameras. He thought the cameras were just junk. He didn't like Lo Wei, how he was just, Lo Wei famously listened because they had that, didn't have the sync sound. He would just listen to horse races and bet. And Bruce was just like fuming. It was so hot there. And this was going to be his big break. It's just like this folly after folly. And then he speaks Cantonese. The Chinese actors speak, or the ones there were speaking Mandarin for the most part. The movie was in Mandarin. And then there was people from Thailand there, and they were, I don't know like how that all worked out. I guess everyone was speaking their native language and they would just dub it in Mandarin. But I could kind of see that at parts in some of the scenes, like where Bruce, I think Brandon, and shout out to Brandon Bentley. Not only was that one of the most like info-packed commentaries, his microphone sounded like it was so good. The quality, it sounded like in a theater, like, and next up for the 20, it was like unbelievable. I mean, because it's sometimes charming on some of these old like Hong Kong legends, like those, you hear guys bump the mic and they're off mic, and it's like, this was like, man, shout out to Brandon. That was great on the quality and everything he said. I think he pointed out he could see when the language barrier was happening, when Bruce becomes the foreman, does the amazing fight. When he is like, doing the march, which is funny. And then there's a moment where the girl is going to like bring up, well, what about my brother and all that? Bruce, there's just some delays like you could see on set. Like he pointed that out. I was like, okay, there is some lost in translation things going on. I just could imagine it was like a mind fuck for Bruce, the whole thing,
That's a nightmare.
Like I would have, the way that I don't want to rewrite history, but being in Thailand, like no one really through that whole era, like Jimmy Wang Yu tried, but he never actually got people genuinely from Thailand. He would just pretend that someone was from Thailand. But I would have loved if half the guys fighting had all been able to do like actual Thai kickboxing.
Oh yeah,
and
that'd be great.
Most of the dudes who are there are all just doing the James Tien style. Everyone's just throwing massive haymakers, right? Or they're fighting with like what's meant to be like a metal bar, but it's so clearly rubber that it just looks like a giant dildo.
It's so funny, yeah.
So it just looks like everyone's going after each other with a giant, massive dildo, which didn't help their cause at all.
There's the clip for Instagram if we put up something that's out of.
Yeah. So let me ask this. Let me ask this. So this was 1972, right?
1971.
Okay, 71. Five Fingers of Death gets released in 1972 and is known as the first kung fu film that comes to America and officially kicks off the kung fu boom of the 70s. Now, I ask you this. If Big Boss came over before Five Fingers of Death, do you think we'd still have that kung fu boom? Or is this film so lackluster that you think that the audience would not kind of attach? Keep in mind, they don't know of Bruce Lee's charisma. So this is their first outing with Bruce Lee. Is it enough to kick off that?
But hadn't they already seen Bruce in the Green Hornet?
A little bit, but that, I think, especially back then. Nowadays, it's this like blending of Netflix and television and everything. Back then, the Green Hornet had like one season. I know my dad used to watch it, but I don't know. I think it was kind of like movies and television were split a little more. Movies were like, back then they had nothing. They go see bands every night. People would go to, it was such an event, like nowadays everyone you can watch it at home. That is a great question. My thing is, I always thought that King Boxer, Five Fingers of Death I didn't quite get it when I would I would read about it, but when I put it on and rent it, that one for me was just, I felt like that slogged a lot. I feel like Five Fingers of Death takes forever. And I'll have my one time at Bandcamp moment that whenever I went to Tarantino's theater was when I first got Five Fingers of Death. It just, it hit me, the tournament at the end. I felt like that movie had a lot of just plotting in it. And when it got to the moment where his hands were like melting, or not melting, like, the glow from the Last Dragon, when that happened, that was kind of like akin to 50 minutes in, when I'm not sure when that occurs, but I think there's parallels. I think they're both, I would say, King Boxer is probably a better film when it comes to, how it's made and the acting, I'd say across the board. But I think Bruce's moments are more triumphant. I think it would have worked. That's a good question. And my parallel I get here, I always go to music. It's like the Beatles. America, EMI were sending Love Me Do Over, and the Capitol Records are saying, it's just not, this isn't going to do it. Then they sent Please Please Me, and there's like, it's just, no, it's not good enough. Then when I Want to Hold Your Hand was just blowing up and just undeniable, then they were like, okay, and it just happened. I think that's kind of how the Americans saw it a little bit. I actually think it's a bit of a curiosity why Five Fingers of Death was the one. I always felt that's how I felt on it. Nowadays, I think it's up more. But Dragon, what do you think?
It should have been the Chinese Boxer. Like the Chinese Boxer to me is the one that's most deserving of it all, because it's the most entertaining kung fu movie of all. Like
the ones we mentioned.
If you're just holding up the Big Boss, Five Fingers of Death, and the Chinese Boxer is the one, man. That's the one that I could see. Like it's the best story in terms of like narratively, it's the best story. It kind of feels like both are slightly pale imitations of them, especially Five Fingers of Death, where the whole notion of the kind of getting the iron hands, he'd already done, right? He'd already done that in Chinese Boxer. He's kind of doing that exact same thing. And I think not enough people give Jimmy Wang Yu props for it. I know that his choreography, put that to one side and look at him as more as just as a filmmaker rather than a martial artist, because he's not really a martial artist. He was a swimmer who got basic martial arts introduction at Shaw's,
right?
The way that actors like David Chang did. David Chang, not a martial artist either. Like the closest kind of the closest sort of Shaw's comparison in that era to Bruce as a martial artist is be Chen Quan-tai. Right? He was the one who's winning tournaments before he joined Shaw's. He was like legitimately an incredible fighter. He was the one they were saying, "You got to slow down. You can't go this hard against stuntmen. They can't.
Fu Shang can't hang with this."
Essentially. And Chen Quan-tai was like, I mean, he's another one that's still hasn't had the props really. And I think a lot of it's probably because he didn't die young, right? He kept on making movies right up until literally like 2020, and phenomenal, and would have zero ego, which is very different to Bruce, who had famously quite a large ego, which I think maybe stopped him from doing other things. And I wonder if some of that was because he got burnt pretty early on in the experience of making this film. Because I just feel, I might be projecting, but I feel his frustration in every frame that he's in this.
Oh wow, that's strong. That's strong. I know.
Just get the sense that he's constantly being like held back.
Can I say one thing on what you said there? I think there's like an inverse thing going on. I feel in this, his scenes are so powerful, you kind of have to put aside the fact that he's interjected into just like a basher film from this period. In Chinese Boxer, you see it as the film is so phenomenal that you have to put aside the fact that when I see Jimmy Wang Yu come on screen, I deflate a little bit. I feel it took me a long time. I have to do a disclaimer to myself. Like when I watch Jimmy Wang Yu, it's like I actually feel Bruce Lee should have been a Chinese Boxer. That would have been like amazing, and that's almost unfair because Jimmy Wang Yu, that's his baby. Like this is But it works for me. But I could see a lot of people, if you're trying to show somebody, oh, here it is, and the buildups and it's coming in his kicks and all that. I'm not trying to knock Jimmy Wang Yu because I think he's very important. I like him with weapons better. I think when he gets weapons, he's a lot better. Talking like Beach of the War Gods and those other ones. But when it comes to his kicks, I don't even know what you would call it. That odd crescent kick that doesn't even get up.
I'm right with that though. Like I love Lau Gar Lung, and Lau Gar Lung was not known for his kicking ability, right?
I just think that Jimmy Wang Yu, he doesn't have that. Like I said, it felt like Fred Astaire came into, I don't know, like Chinese Hercules or something when he arrives here. And when Jimmy Wang Yu arrives, I kind of deflate for the fight scenes. I just have to do a little bit of a thing where I go, okay, like basically, if you're watching an amazing horror movie from the 70s and there's like a funny scene where the knife doesn't go in right or something, you kind of just let that go and it doesn't, I kind of have that sometimes with Jimmy Wang Yu. And apologies, I know so many people adore him. I know there are a lot of people.
Yes, I think I'm sure if we did a ranking, Bruce would come out on top.
Oh,
no, I just mean people in the circles and stuff. I know he's like well regarded. No, he's not on the stratosphere of Bruce.
I used to hate Wang Yu. I used to hate him. Like, I honestly, I couldn't.
Shaun, I want to do You're so entertaining with these things. I love that because sometimes me and Dragon are like, we're doing these little kind of like, and sorry to the audience, Shaun is just like, Shaun has a list and he's going to give it to you.
I like him now. I like Wang Yu
Okay.
now. Originally, a long time ago when I started watching his films, I didn't care. Like One Arm Swordsman, I really didn't like first time I saw it, and it took me until I think probably within the last 5 years for me to truly appreciate Wang Yu.
Okay. One Armed Swordsman's good. The second one's that's where it's at as far as that trilogy of movies go.
I'm all about the new One Armed Swordsman. I like that.
Oh, yeah, that's my favorite. Okay. That's one of my favorites. Yeah,
I don't like David Chang as much as I do Wang Yu.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
And I like T. Lung better than both of them. Weird.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's
I like T. Lung.
Oh, I love T. Lung. He's amazing. No, but T. Lung, I think his martial arts are awesome. We're speaking about people like David Chang, Wang Yu, and like Fu Sheng. I know, Shaun, I had a lot of trouble with Fu Sheng for a long time. I was once at this, when I would go to this place called Service Merchandise, and there was an Asian woman next to me. I'm looking at all the Kung Fu movies. It was the Wu-Tang collection. This is like 98 or something. And she started talking to me. And this was a period where I couldn't believe if I met someone, that knew these movies. She really knew it. And she was telling me, oh, Fu Sheng is like the most popular of this period. He was the most popular. I was like, I didn't really know that. And she said, because he had a slightly more American look, she said to me, that is why he, to the Chinese audience, kind of, I don't know, maybe stuck out a little bit. And I didn't really ever think of that. And I don't know if I fully see that. Maybe he has some more European characteristics or something. I don't know. She was telling me this, and she was talking about all the movies, and that kind of stuck to me. And I was like, oh, okay, he was so loved and stuff. And when I read the books, I understood. But when I'd see him in some of those early ones, I could see that he was the one that was kind of in that David Chang mode where his martial arts weren't up to snuff with Chen Quan Tai and all that. But over time, I've come to like him in his leading roles. I mean, I adore Chinatown Kid.
I like him more when he's doing comedy, weirdly. I don't like, I think it's the real shame for me in the Chinatown Kid is that no one ever gives props to the one who I think really deserves them. And it's Sun Chung in that movie. Like he's the one for me who's like, he's really doing something that he doesn't normally get a chance to do. Like he's the one who's flexing his acting chops. And I think he was an infinitely better, like, kind of martial arts performer and kind of able to play naively. I don't want to say he's heroic in the Chinatown Kid because he's not really. He's kind of just like, he's more naive in that movie, but he's super duplicitous in a way that none of the other Venoms could really handle doing. So he was always the one who was the turncoat. He was always. And it's so good. It's like he's so effortlessly charming when he's pretending to not be the villain.
Most underrated of the Venoms.
Amazing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
wasn't my favorite Venom, but I think he was maybe the most gifted as an actor.
Oh yeah, his acting it's solid. But I like breaking this down. It's interesting how, and I think over the decades, Bruce's. I mean, I know a lot of people put Enter the Dragon for so long. Enter the Dragon was always mentioned a lot, but I've seen that come down. And Fist of Fury, like Rick Myers and a lot of people would put Fist of Fury back in the 80s, were saying it's his best movie. But for the audience at large, I feel like Enter the Dragon was always just the one, especially just how, it hits so many bases. It is so entertaining. They're very different. It's hard. Like they're kind of like two arms. Like I have trouble comparing them. Like they're part of, meaning like they're, filmed, even though it's filmed in Hong Kong, it's very American to me, Enter the Dragon.
Very American.
In Fist of Fury, he's acting, and in Enter the Dragon, he's Bruce Lee.
He's brooding.
Oh, there you go. No, you got it. No, but that's good because I think that's where Bruce was going. I think I know he had that arrogance and everything, but I think his philosophy coming in was getting better and better. The Game of Death, and he also, I think I just answered our question. We were trying to think, does Way of the Dragon actually have him talking about this philosophy? Because I'm thinking of the scene where a girl's like getting naked and he's all nervous. He's that country bumpkin in Way of the Dragon. But by the end, he comes alive in his body movements with Chuck Norris is kind of his philosophy, because that's him speaking before he put it all in words, because of course, Bruce with Jeet Kune Do always talked about, going against tradition, even his stance. He loved Western boxing, but instead of doing, even though he is right-handed, he would do the southpaw stance to hit, all of that, everything. And I think that's kind of like where it started in his movies. So that's like a nice halfway point. his philosophies really started to come in kind of at the end of Way of the Dragon in his fighting. Then in Enter the Dragon, you could tell I think he actually was saying he had to get that stuff in there. I remember him saying, and they, like we've talked about, they tried to get John Saxon and Jim Kelly in more because they had like reservations if the box office, because that actual poster that, I can't even remember, I think it was True Lies, or that was so important. Like, I think it was True Lies with Jamie Lee Curtis, and she was asking Arnold, is it okay if I'm up there with you side by side? That box office, like how it's on the poster, was powerful back then, especially. And I think they're trying to get those names up there. And yeah, Bruce, when I watch Enter the Dragon now, it's kind of, I do enjoy it. That's a movie, every time I watch, I feel a different way. When I saw that, and I would like to ask you, Dragon, you saw that in the theater. When I saw that, my mind was blown. It was like, oh, I saw him in a whole different light. I just
I didn't see Enter the Dragon in theory. I saw Fist of Fury.
Oh, I swore you saw the 4K. You didn't see that. It was Fist of Fury. Yeah, okay, maybe one. Okay, I had that wrong. Okay, yeah.
I think it was Arrow that arranged those screenings, and they weren't allowed to do Enter the Dragon over here, because that was the one that wasn't in 4K on their 4K box set. Because Warner's wanted to do that themselves, and maybe Warner's put it back into a few theaters when they brought out their 4K version, but I never got a chance to see it. And I've never.
That's when I saw it. Yeah.
Have I ever seen that at cinema? I can't remember. Maybe a long time ago. But Fist of Fury was very recent. Like Fist of Fury, I saw at the cinema, like when that Arrow box set came out for the first time, and that was unreal. That was like that to me is probably still my favorite of his movies all around. But I have a hard time with. There's a lot of stuff that I enjoy slightly more in Fist of Legend, and there's a lot of stuff that I enjoy more in Fist of Fury. But I like the goofy. Weirdly, I like the goofy stuff that's in Fist of Fury. Like I like him dressing up as a repairman with glasses.
Yeah,
I love that.
Classic.
And he gets to like kind of properly emote in a couple of scenes. He gets to kind of like break down and sort of show quite a bit of emotion, which we wouldn't really see from him later on. Like,
it's his only one with a romance when kissing, and that's the only one who does that in it.
And the other thing that kind of bugs me a little bit about Big Boss, just on the subject of romance, is it's really hard for me knowing where Nora Mao will become in sort of his story. Seeing her in such a throwaway role, and then seeing the other girl who I don't think is as good as Nora Mao, it was a bit tricky, because I think I would have had a lot more time for the movie if those two girls' roles had been reversed, right? If the girl that was playing the sister was just the girl who got harassed at the beginning, and Nora Mao was the main one. But I think she's maybe just a tiny bit too young at that point.
She's so striking, though. Nora Mao's so striking.
Oh yeah, beautiful. Yeah, but I have to say, well, I was going to forget. There's something so weird going on with this English dub. Now you just said the sister. So I guess what it was is in the Chinese translation, she would say brother, about Bruce Lee, not meaning brother, but I keep saying American. I don't know if this was an English like dub or whoever did it, in England but whoever did it, they chose to make her be the cousin. And then that makes it really odd whenever Bruce there's definitely some romance and she has a crush on him, but I don't think that's meant to be.
No, she was the sister of James Tien, right?
But that's his cousin though. Okay, so it's confusing. That's what I'm saying. There's something lost in there. They're like, he's going to stay with his cousins and his uncle leaves. That's his uncle. And I don't know if they're all brothers, or I'm sure there's some that are just friends or something. But oh gosh, that English dub, and she walks in the room and it's her uncle, and she goes, uncle, and he goes, whoa, if the things I would do to yourself. I was like, oh my God, you know what I mean? And not only they're related, the whole thing, that was so wrong. But when you watch it on the Mandarin dub, which smooths out all those edges, she says, oh wow, you've grown and you're so much more beautiful. It's kind of like, I have not as much love for that dub. I do have a little nostalgia.
Shocking, man. That dub is shocking.
I haven't heard it in a while anyway.
Oh, I thought that's the one you watched though. I thought you said you only watched the English dub one.
No, I didn't watch the dub. I watched it in I guess. Wait, was there a Cantonese cut?
I think Mandarin's the sort of default one when you're watching.
Okay, so when I first put the disc in, I basically just hit play, so I don't even know what I got. I think
that would have been Mandarin. Yeah, it would have been.
So I did see the Mandarin cut.
Yeah, but no, you saw the Mandarin language, but the Mandarin cut's on a separate disc.
Sorry, my head's up my ass. I don't even fucking know what I'm doing.
There's
like the four cuts of the movie.
Oh yeah, there's the export cut. Yeah, it's but the thing is for how amazing that scene is when Bruce Lee finally arrives. The dub is like, hey, stop it. It's like really odd, you know? But I don't know, do you guys have a lot of love for that soundtrack? For me, I just adore that soundtrack.
Bits of it. I quite like, they pull so much from Japanese movies in the original. Like, I pull loads of stuff from the
and you like that?
Yeah, I don't know if I don't think you've seen the Daimajin movies. There's like a series of kind of like kaiju adjacent movies that were happening around the same sort of time as the very early kind of Godzilla movies were getting up and kind of up and running, that were more closer to like folk ghost stories, but they happen to kind of involve creatures that were physically very large. And there's a series of 3 movies about this giant statue that will periodically come to life and just wreak havoc on the surrounding area. He's like Godzilla size, called Daimajin. And the soundtrack for those movies is phenomenal. And
that's what you hear in the Mandarin.
They pull quite a lot of it for the Mandarin cut, yeah. But it all mixes together with me now, because I think I like the main theme that plays over the
credits.
English dub version.
Yeah,
there's like, I still think of that as like the main Big Boss theme, which I think is only on the international versions. I can't remember if that ever shows up in the Mandarin cut. It all gets really kind of fuzzy.
Yeah. Well, how about you, Shaun? You dig on that funktastic?
I'll be honest with you. I don't. The soundtrack itself didn't stick with me. I thought it was fine, but like now I'm thinking about it, I don't really recall any of the music in particular. But I'll be honest with you, I'm very bad when it comes to scores and soundtracks. It's
it wouldn't have been on the one you watched if you haven't watched the English dub. It's see, that's what's weird on this one. This is another thing for people listening. Choose. I wish I could make. I mean, I don't really like AI and the generative aspect of it, but I would love to see the Mandarin put over the English, that soundtrack.
Yeah, you want the international soundtrack, but with Mandarin
language.
Dialogue.
Well, no, the international. Like, yeah, I guess that's what I get confused. I keep thinking that's the American release, but I guess that's the international, and then the Mandarin would have been just for those regions.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That soundtrack. Oh my gosh, I adore it. And for the punch, that's what throws me. The punch is so powerful, and it's like didn't, and it's like this crazy music. And then when I watched the Mandarin, I just finished it up. I'd watched it earlier, but finished it just before we started. It's almost like a horror music comes in, but it's kind of cool. It just doesn't have the triumphantness that I'm used to. I just love that. It gives it a real grindhousey. Yeah, I adore that soundtrack. But the English dub is it's a little jarring, where it has some neat moments.
It's not even like good in the way that some of the old Shaw's English dubs are, where it's not like so bad it's good, it's just bad.
Oh yeah. Well, there's the legend of legendary weapons of China, or kung fu, known that way. There's the 2 teams of Shaw Brothers. I call it the Master Killer team. I've mentioned him on the podcast a few times with Ted and the Godzilla guy. His voice is my favorite of all of them. But there's that other team that did the dubbing on I think it's House of Traps, Spearman or Flag of Iron, and also on Legendary Weapons. And that dub on Legendary Weapons, he's like, man, that was really crappy. Like the voices, it's kind of endearing, but it's just I much prefer the other team, the main team. One other thing we didn't touch on, which is important to say, the Big Boss himself, which I think is a strange title because I think he's not very menacing. He's kind of like, everything about him is a little underwhelming. But he is the choreographer, also on Fist of Fury. In theory, once, like, you can see that in Fist of Fury too. He did the choreography like when they're at the school and it's kind of not that good. Anytime Bruce had any part of it, it blows your mind. It's him. But you could see in that final scene that it just brings it down a bit because Bruce is having to compromise with him, and Lo Wei wanted to put all those trampoline things in. Bruce hated that famous thing where Bruce goes up and the 2 kicks. It's like, I think it's the actual cover of the poster. Yeah. Bruce hated that. But he kind of compromised for it. He didn't like that trampoline stuff because he wanted the more grounded, you're impressed by what the actor's doing, not like some sort of David Copperfield thing, and this is before trampolines got really good. You could kind of, But what, let me ask you, what scene, I guess we all agree. I was going to say, I like to ask favorite fight scenes, but I think we agree the red light, that whole series.
Yeah. The Ice Factory stuff is the best, I think. Yeah.
For sure.
And then the Ice Factory is still there. There's also kind of, shout out to Matt Rutledge, who does a great special feature on the Arrow set as well, where he goes back and tries to kind of find as many locations as he can. And that Ice Factory is still there, still largely looks exactly the same. And they're still
does it still have Does it have the perfect cutout of a man in the side of the wall?
Sadly, no.
That is so.
And the bell's gone now too. That they replaced with a different bell. The bell, which is apparently like a half-cut mortar shell or an old missile or something.
Oh wow!
Cut in half. They were tapping. That's gone, but they still cut the blocks in exactly the same shape, and everything kind of largely looks exactly the same.
Okay, wow. I didn't know that. I knew it was there, but I know that it was up and going.
Yeah, it still comes out in the same long.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Speaking of
that extra, it's good.
When Bruce does that powerful, I kind of wish I didn't watch this. I wanted to get some like interesting facts, so I stumbled on some video, and it was. Can't remember who it was. I think it was that guy Stripey Rambles is his name. He does a ton of Bruce Lee stuff. Oh, why is that funny?
I've never heard that name before.
That's a great name. I haven't heard of that either. That's great.
Oh, that's
Stripey Rambles.
No,
Stripey Rambles. That's amazing.
I was laughing. I was laughing because I thought Johnny like knew this guy, and you were about to tell me something. No,
I wish I knew him.
Oh my god, that cracked me up. No, I guess his name is Stripey, and he made the channel saying I'm rambling. So that's not his name. That's yeah. Oh, that's cracking me up. Yeah, that sounds like a Monty Python, like a guy walking like Stripey Rambles. Oh man,
great name.
Oh, that's classic. No, yeah. So he did a 10. Oh my god, he did a 10 like funniest scenes or not funniest 10 unique things you didn't know, and he pointed at all. But instead of being like things we're talking about, like Bruce felt this way and he wrote Linda. No, it was on screen things. So when Bruce does that powerful push, he pointed out that there's a very obvious like wooden beam put in to make it go. The ice would go out the side. I never noticed that. Oh, it is so glaring. I can never see it the same way. Bruce does a powerful push. They want you to think, wow, he's so strong that it made the ice. It has this like wedged wood you can see like sticking there.
Really?
And it basically just points the ice out that way. And then, yeah, just a lot of little.
The one that always trips me out is the death of the prostitute that's basically ultimately told him what's going on. And she gets killed.
Yeah.
Because like she's looking towards the window. And he comes in behind her and throws a knife, and the knife goes into her front.
The front. Like, it makes no sense.
If they just flipped that shot around, it would have made sense in my mind. But that one I couldn't unsee. That was he didn't have a knife like Fu Shang and Life Gamble, one of those like bendy boomerang knives. That would have made sense, like that went around. No, that was interesting. Yeah, no, it had a lot of just inconsistencies where she's on stuff that's not quite interesting, but she's down there like barefoot. Then the next scene, and yeah, it's cool. There's a lot of I think it's more of the Brandon Bentley side of things. I mean, listening to that great commentary, like a lot of goes in deep, saying like Bruce was staying at this hotel and the stream was like behind the hotel, and that's why you never see it go anywhere else, because you would just see like these like hotels, or like actually I think he clarified the hotel wasn't right there, but the point of it is low way. The budget I guess was like $100,000, which with inflation's more, but that's pretty low. Bruce got like less than $10,000, and I guess they just wanted to do everything really close because they weren't going to travel. So if you go there, the ice house and all that, the brothel I guess is just all you could just walk like And I think the hotel that he stayed at when they were filming, I don't think it actually appears on screen, but that's still there.
Okay,
that's all in like watch Matt Rockdale, is kind of.
I'll have to check that.
It's really good.
Yeah, I'm still digging. That is my favorite box set of all time. That Arrow Bruce Lee one.
It's beautiful.
It's blown, but I'm still digging through it. The game of that final game of death, mind blowing. I mean, that's definitely for diehards though, because that's like the middle of it's like at one point it's almost like an hour straight of just Bruce trying to do like a nunchuck scene.
I love that stuff though.
I love it to death. But I mean, it's like for us, I just like I couldn't see that like playing in a theater or something like Warrior's Journey or something.
No, but I think they do a good job of balancing it with like, I think it's James Flower does the narration on that himself, like the producer from Arrow, and he sort of like talks you through the footage in a way that's kind of really entertaining. That's like the best, most definitive version. I know that there was Game of Death Redux, which came out I think a couple of years before, and I think he's gone back in and done some more stuff to that.
I think he has.
It's Alan Canvan, who's kind of been working on that. So I think that there was another version of that coming out, but the Arrow set kind of stole its thunder quite a bit, because I don't know if that'll ever be topped.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
It's a
unreal.
beautiful set.
one other question. When you guys watch this, though, even though it takes forever to get to that Bruce moment, do you guys, at least on the rewatches, still get that oomph when he screams and it's like the moment?
Oh, I do. I always
Okay.
get a kick out of Bruce being Bruce.
Yeah.
Not so much. Not so much from this one. Because I think, nostalgia plays a big part in this. And I think it's very telling that this was the one that you saw first. So I think that will take you back to that sort of thing. It never takes me back to the way that I felt the first time that I saw Enter the Dragon or Fist of Fury.
Okay. So this felt like, even though it's a similar scream and stuff, you'd seen it like better in your eyes already. Okay.
Yeah.
So it maybe felt watered down at that moment. It wasn't as like
a little bit. Yeah. I think, like I said, I find him infinitely more compelling just as a guy. So anytime we visit Hong Kong, we go, there's now the permanent exhibit at the Hong Kong Heritage Centre, which if anyone visits Hong Kong, absolutely go and check it out. And it's like, it wasn't designed to be a permanent installation, so it's sort of evolved over the course of the 2 times that we've been there, and it's now like a much more sort of immersive, interactive experience that I actually kind of maybe enjoyed it slightly more because it was a little bit rawer the first time that we went, but that was like all of his notebooks and his training aids
that's
and
cool.
basically everything you want to see. And so I think I have a huge amount of love for him as the guy, more so than I do in the earlier movies. So I think I get the same thing. Some people get really excited about the performances that he did when he was a kid, and I think they're fun to sort of see. But I've never been that into like the overall cult of Bruce the actor as much as I was maybe into the cult of Bruce the man. So I find that stuff more interesting, right?
Yeah. But the more you learn about Bruce, I mean, with Matthew Pauly's amazing book and all that, there's so much more to him that I think he's got to this point. He's just an amazing martial artist who was like the godfather of MMA, all his theories.
Oh, completely.
All of that.
Light years ahead of anyone else in terms of training regimes and stuff that he was doing, with kind of like even kind of preempting what became that whole sub-industry of like, you get those ab things that give you electric shocks and stuff. He was fucking with all that stuff at dangerously high voltage levels. And, that's
which went on to be in 75 Bruceploitation movies.
Yeah, completely.
So many of them.
But and I think that'll be interesting when we get to the later movies, because I guess what you're saying, his crazy blow up moments hit you better in like Fist of Fury and stuff.
100%.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Well, and we won't spoil that here. That's going to be a fun one to.
And because Enter the Dragon was the first, and I think Enter the Dragon's so kind of like modeled after the format of a James Bond movie. And so you said it was Arnie for you, and I'm maybe a couple of years older, but like for me, Arnie came a little bit later. Like it wasn't until we got our VHS machine that I started seeing Arnie movies. But in really early days, it was Bruce Lee and Sean Connery. So like it was James Bond, and so Enter the Dragon fitted so seamlessly into that it felt like coming home straight away.
Yeah, makes sense.
It was so effortlessly cool.
The music too. It's so similar.
Everything, and Jim Kelly in that movie. Everything, even John Saxon. I love all 3 of those dudes.
I will say you're onto that then, because that's important. And you caught that early. Me seeing Big Boss first, I kind of went to the trajectory that like it crescendoed into.
I wish I'd done it that way, because it would.
Me too. Yeah,
and not only is Enter the Dragon so great, that's kind of your nostalgia starts there, So it's like that's powerful. Shaun, just as a curiosity, who were like kind of your guys growing up?
Schwarzenegger from day one. Me, yeah,
awesome.
I was a Schwarzenegger guy, and probably, to be honest, Conan was probably early for me, and like things like that. And then I imagine some Stallone as well to an extent, like Cobra and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, I love Stallone.
Weirdly, that came later from me. That wasn't until we got VHS. I don't remember. Maybe Conan was on TV once before we got a VHS player that I can remember.
Right.
But I can specifically remember the very first VHS we rented was The Karate Kid. And
I love it.
I think like not long after was Predator, and then Predator I rented out like every weekend for
I can't
months.
I saw that my dad used to do this thing where he would say some mundane task. It'd be like the post office. He'd be like, Jason, come with me, we'll go to the post office. And I'd be like, oh, what? That sounded so unappealing, And I was just like, oh no, I don't want to go to he'd be like, come on, I need someone to drive with me. He would take me straight to the theater and see these Arnold movies. And in Predator, I mean, gosh, I remember he taking me to see Braveheart way later, but in '87, I was there in Predator. When that scene where it got to the mud, I feel like that's like a changing point in my life. I'm just like, oh my God, just something about that. And then, it might be kind of a simple, just that, when he was figuring that out, I couldn't be, and like when you're that young, you don't have this like pretense and you don't have to think about bills and these things. You can just go, you're like this little daisy flower floating. Like, I didn't have nothing to worry about. I almost didn't exist. I was so immersed. I was like in this jungle with him, so
such a classic. I saw that one nice and early as well.
I never got a chance to see the first one at the cinema. My dad took me to see Predator 2 at the cinema, though.
Oh, wow. That's a heavy hit.
And totally Colin.
Oh, cool.
He always hated the language, but he dug the movies.
The swearing, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
But like, he never stopped him taking me to them. But because there was that thing where it's like the cinema didn't even bat an eye. Like, and I was probably 10, 11 when we started going to like 18 certificate movies, and the cinema didn't give a fuck. As long as your parent was there, it was like, fine.
I cannot wrap my head around. Leon was just telling me the other day that I can't wrap my head around the UK and these rules. Like the nunchucks I can get, but you guys couldn't. Ninja Turtles were called Hero Turtles. It couldn't be called.
The word ninja was banned. Yeah.
Because that also leads to like criminal activity or something. The idea of like,
it makes no sense, but it's really funny.
Yeah, and then there's Benny Hill with like girls running around like basically. I mean, a lot of the sexual stuff was real shocking to me when I would see Benny Hill. Like in America, we didn't have that. In my head, there's actual nudity in that. I maybe not.
No, normally just lingerie generally. Always like, in like suspenders and bras.
Yeah. I guess when I was 5, like it seemed like nudity at that point. But in my head, and when you're saying about your dad and language, I would assume down the pubs, like you guys were going young. I thought you guys swore like what's the guy from the Pogues? What's that guy's name?
Shane McGowan.
I'm picturing like that's you guys' environment. So I'm shocked.
Pubs were harder to get into until you were about 16. And drinking for us started at 12, 13. So you weren't doing it in pubs. You'd find some.
Well, I guess my sister has a friend who's Irish, and like her parents were Irish, and I guess they would take her into pubs when she was 14. I don't think she was having a beer, but it was like I just remember there's a culture there where here you're not like a kid. It's not even a thought. But
we would find a shop that would basically not give a fuck, and they would sell us bottles of vodka.
Wow.
And so like one person would go in, like cigarettes and booze were super easy to get from about 12 upwards.
But would parents actually like have 16-year-olds have beer? Like they would take them down to the pub? No, I heard that though. Maybe that's a Dublin thing. I'll have to look it up.
You'd be getting a hard time if your folks found out, unless it was like a family party or something.
Oh, okay.
And maybe you'd be allowed
to have like a cheeky beer or something.
But usually you were stealing it. Like they weren't they weren't giving it out. You'd be like, I remember getting I got alcohol poisoning once for 4 days. After one of my, I can't remember my mum's which birthday it was. It was maybe, I think it was probably maybe our 40th or 50th, can't remember, but they had a massive party, and so we had a house full of people, and me and my cousin, who were both about, I think probably 12 or 13, went round and just finished every single glass we could find sitting on a table.
Wounded soldier. I learned.
And whiskey and
that's called the Wounded Soldier. I heard in Ireland, my friend told me about that.
That was rough.
Wow.
Didn't stop either of us from continuing to drink. I just had to take a month off.
No, I guess how it was presented to me was that, in here, when you turn 21, it's like, I don't know, like the analogy, but just like an animal being let out of a cage. These kids are throwing up. They get there. I thought that there wasn't such a stigma that parents would let, it might be an Irish thing. I have to look it up. But would let kids like have a beer when they're 17 or something. It wasn't that crazy. Maybe at least what it was, I guess Shaun's maybe a little bit, but what I was saying is like, maybe it was because you guys, the drinking age was 19, that by the time you got to 21, it wasn't as big of a deal. Like in America, the drinking age in certain states like New York was 18 at one point, and then it kept up
here when we were growing up.
Okay. When I was growing up, it was 21 straight across.
But most of us had given up drinking by the time we turned 18.
That's what I mean. Like they had done it so much, right? Like you got it out of your system so much.
I can remember from like as soon as I started secondary school, and you start secondary school at like, I think probably 12, 13 for first year. Every single weekend there was at least one, usually multiple, and usually girls would have to end up going to hospital to get their stomach pumped so they didn't get alcohol poisoning.
Man,
that was routine. It was almost like a rites of passage.
Sorry, go ahead.
it was usually the people in the years under us, and that's why we were always like weirded out. It was like, the youngsters not knowing how to handle their drink, and we were in like second year, and the first years are getting stomach pumped. And
Well, when I was 15, I used to, or probably maybe like 14, 15, I used to get so drunk I would like throw up, and I'd be absolutely awful. So my mum started buying me my booze when I was 16 because she said,
I'm telling you, I'm onto something.
She thought it was safer if she chose the booze and she allowed us to drink in her house. So she was actually, she was basically just keeping an eye on us, but she allowed me to drink, which was quite nice. And then I became an alcoholic, and it all went
which was less nice.
Yes. 9 years sober, everyone, just in case everyone's interested.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Dragon, I'm hearing a slow drum roll for our book segment.
Yes, indeed. Because this is a 1970s, for those of you who have maybe not been listening to all our episodes, anytime that we do a movie from the 1970s, we can jump into Dr. Craig D. Reed's spectacular Ultimate Guide to Martial Arts Movies of the 1970s, which gives a percentage score in terms of how much of that movie is martial arts action for every single movie. So it's not a percentage score in terms of a rating of the movie. This is purely a percentage score indicating how much of that movie is martial arts. And fellas, do you care to hazard a guess? Where do you stake your claim for the big boss?
Okay, I'm gonna think for a second. This is tricky. Well, hey, Shaun, let's collaborate for a second. I think because it's an hour and 40 minutes, or how many minutes? Can you give us that? I can't remember.
Of course, it is 99 minutes. In its original cut.
Okay, so like an hour
11 in its Mandarin cut.
Okay, yeah, that's like 150 to 140, or if I'm doing the math wrong. So an hour 40. Oh, I'm going to go 25%.
Okay. That's a good one. I'm going lower. I'm actually going 14%.
Wow, that's specific.
They're both very, very respectable guesses, gentlemen. The martial arts percentage is 21.8%.
Wow, we'll split the difference. We'll split the difference. Good job, Shaun.
Damn close. For comparison, the Chinese boxer, Jimmy Wang Yu's classic from 1970, is 34.4%.
There you go. That's the one you want to go for.
Yes.
Well, I don't. Hold on, but
at some point we've got to do it on the podcast, right?
That is the one you might want to go for. But if you just isolate, I'm not getting defensive. I say if you isolated those martial arts, though, that's just my point. If you just watch those scenes,
true, yes,
in a vacuum,
you're absolutely right there.
You know. Yeah, it's still a Chinese boxer.
Really, really, wow!
That fight in the snow at the end. Badass. Him predating COVID masks years before COVID.
But that's
surgical mask and
right
white oven gloves.
But that's not choreography, though. I got you. You're taking the whole package too around it.
Yeah, I am.
Okay,
it's a good one. It's nothing.
You can see at least the choreography when Bruce is there is better than.
Undoubtedly, because he knew what he was doing. I think he just didn't really care that much about it.
No.
He was a. I think he was like, he was doing choreography without the choreography. He was just
right.
He was just
the intensity was there. I will say David Chang for how David Chang really, when you watch that like Fist of Fire, the Shaw Brothers documentary, he was practicing tons.
He took it a lot more seriously.
Yeah.
Watch Vengeance. He's legit awesome in Vengeance.
Love Vengeance.
But
I've
all right, guys. Oh man! Okay, that's going on the list. That's going on the list.
Like a sub intervention. We have to do like a food intervention.
Yes, a reverse.
That's intervention.
That I'll just say one thing. That is Chang Che in his like peak of beautifulness, his shots, and oh man. Because if you go to like the later ones, even if I love moments of Brave Archer and his mate, the camera's just so static. I mean, this will do like an overhead shot of T Lung at a Peking opera spinning around, the colors, the choices of the colors. It is like it's on it's on the T Lung box set, the Shout box set.
Oh, the one I did.
And there was a German standalone as well on Blu-ray.
You don't have that Shout set yet?
I don't have the Shout. Okay, I only have 3 Shout sets, and they're the early ones. I haven't been keeping up with them, unfortunately.
Fair enough.
I think it's also on the Honey Stick, isn't it?
Yes.
Now you're talking. That's what I need to know. Thank you.
There you go. There you go.
Everyone's like, "What the fuck is the Honey Stick?" It's what we call Jason's penis.
That's hysterical. But now they're really wondering.
Yeah.
But cool, guys. Any parting thoughts or ideas?
No, just that I think it's a frustrating glimpse of what would be, what we know to be, and what will be, that wasn't quite fully realized, but still one that was good fun to revisit. Even
I agree. I had fun watching it.
Oh, good. I didn't know. You picked up the plane was going down still. I thought maybe you'd clean up a little bit. He's like, but that's cool. So, what would you, if you were doing Letterboxd, put it for you? Maybe.
I think I'd be a little bit more generous. I don't think I'd go as low as 2.5. I'd probably come in at 3.
Okay. Fair enough.
I'd come in at 3 purely for what it represents more than what it is.
It's a 3-star film, but it's 2.5 stars because of James Chan.
I can't wait to get. I want to hear more of that later. I mean, we'll wrap this up, but I love when you go off on your Carter Wongs and your reasoning. I mean, you know, James Chan, he has that movie star look and quality. He does step into certain scenes, but I think in a kung fu movie, like Dragon was saying, it's when he's fighting is where
he's best dispatching people. He's better as the guy who employs guys who are great at fighting.
Absolutely agree.
And then he can just be the cackling henchman at the top part. I dig him best in those roles for sure.
Yeah.
If anyone picked up Rosa, then he's got a good villain role in Rosa.
Oh, really? Okay, I'll watch that.
And he is indeed actually dispatching Dick Wei and Chung Fat in that to do it, and he's a real dick to them too. His scenes are.
Can it change my mind?
Maybe. I think it'll make you appreciate him as a cackling villain. Yes.
Love it.
All right, fellas. I want to say thanks to everyone who's been listening. We really appreciate it. And Absolutely. If you can, on your podcast of choice, if you're enjoying it, please give us a 5-star rating. It helps, I guess, push us up. Don't quite know the algorithm of how podcasts work, but definitely helps the cause.
It can't hurt.
And comment too. We only just realized that people could and have started reading them. So please comment. And thank you for already been commenting.
Yeah, thank you. I moved from Spotify to YouTube Music because it's part of my it's included in YouTube Premium. So and I just happened to go into Spotify one day I can't even remember. And I said, I looked at our podcast in there and I saw everyone's comments. So thanks everyone. I didn't realize it was all there. And I don't even know if I can log in and respond, but just saying we really appreciate the positive feedback. We definitely all right. So that's bye from me and Shaun.
It's goodbye from me, Stripey Rambles.
Shout out. And Dragon.
And we wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a happy Jackie New Year.
Well done. Yes, happy holidays, everyone.
Yes.
Happy holidays.
See you in 2026.